All right, good afternoon. The Community Redevelopment Agency Board meeting of Tuesday, May 6th is hereby called to order. We'll have the opening prayer with City Attorney Nevin Zimmerman, Elder with First Presbyterian Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the Flag by Board Member Brian Granger, also retired Air Force. So please stand.
Let's pray. Father, we're just grateful once again to come together and exercise our freedom here in the United States and in Florida and Panama City as we look about trying to redevelop this city and make it a place that will promote good, because we know that's what the government is about, is to promote the good, and that's what we strive to do. Bless this meeting in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. If you'll join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty.
Board Member Lucas.
Present.
Board Member Granger.
Present.
Board Member Street on his way.
He is running late, but he should be here shortly.
Okay, and Chairman Rowan.
Here.
Present.
Yep, and just, I don't anticipate us voting on anything, but
Right.
Board Member Halligus is aware that she would only be able to participate in any deliberation and not be able to cast any vote. All right, item number 4, board members, is the minutes from the April 15th, 2025 CRE board meeting. Staff would entertain a motion to approve.
A motion we approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any questions or revisions to the meeting minutes? Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Lucas.
Yes.
Board Member Granger.
Yes.
Chairman Rowan.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We now have Board
Yep.
Member Street.
All right, I'll just note for the record that Board Member Street has now arrived for the meeting. All right, you have the agenda in front of you, board members. Are there any additions, deletions, or modifications? I'll just state that there is one insertion. If you look at item number 7, inadvertently, it was involved in the actual item itself, but on the agenda, Daffin Park was left out, so that will come after the Millville FDOT beautification. Again, we'll just provide an update on Daffin Park. Not really a modification, just a typo. But any additions, deletions, or modifications from staff or any board members?
Item K.
Daffin Park is listed as K
Yes.
in the, if you
Correct.
look under number 7.
Right, what I'm telling you on the agenda, it's not on the agenda. That's what I was
Okay,
saying. It's
got it.
correct in the packet, but not on the agenda.
Oh,
So I'm just
okay.
making sure that as I read through that list, it is correct inside the item number itself. So,
Thank you.
all right, seeing no additions, deletions, or modifications, we will move on to item number 6, which is audience participation. Open to any issue related to the authority of the Panama City CRA. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes. If you'd like to address the CRA board, please come down front to the podium and state your name and address for the record.
I am Patty Sunday, 1115 Fairland. Hello, Commissioner Halligus. Nevin, that was a fabulous prayer. I liked it very much. Mayor, I don't think I'm going to be here for June, so I wanted to thank you for your service on the CRA as the chairman. On this one, you're called the chairman, right? All right, glasses. Remember a few months ago, I think I might have brought it up, and it's come up a couple times about maybe having 2 more members on the CRA board, and I can't remember, and I apologize if y'all said yes and you were thinking about it or you were still talking about it. That's one question. Second one was a procedural question. It occurred to me today, if folks are going out of office, like Board Member Halligus and Board Member Mayor, do they stay on the CRA? Or do you have to change, or is it automatic, or does that have to have a procedure? It occurred to me today. I also want to note that a colleague of mine, Rob Rosner, sent a memo about the MLK project, a letter. So I hope everyone is in receipt of that. And on the bond for the Millville Bond Project, 7M, will you be discussing the amount of the bond and how it's supported? And I like bonds. I've actually helped pass them before. And what's it for? And I wanted to tell you today, Forbes had a story about Debt Platform, which is something that I use often for affordable housing and first-time home buyers that reduces the cost, and those are SBA loans. But the first new SBA loan that's coming back since DOGE was only for equipment manufacturing. So I just want to make a point of that I hope the CRA is supportive of first-time home buyers and affordable housing. And if you're doing it in the P2 or P3 world, I have never seen it done without the SBA loan as part of the capital stack, because it drives the cost down to the consumer. And I hope we are doing first-time home buyer products and not rentals. But it's going to be a while. That came out today. And then I emailed some of you a very sophisticated chart of the next 4 quarters showing where we'll have economic gains, where we will lose probably just a little bit in first quarter, and that impact on interest rates, which again will go back to anything that's affordable housing, because the interest rate is obviously another variable that drives the total cost. So I sent that to y'all today for reference. Thank you.
Don't know if we're going in order to the sign-in sheet or not, but I'll go next. Michelle Bryant, 409 East 9th Street. I sent each of you a letter regarding my concerns about the 15th Street and MLK project. And maybe concerns wasn't the right word, just some thoughts behind moving forward with this project. As you guys know, Glenwood specifically is an underserved area, as well as you know it's a food desert. One of the things that was mentioned, and I went back to the News Herald back when the property was purchased on 15th and MLK, one of the desires was to make sure that what was built there was affordable to the citizens in the community, not only the citizens in the community, but the citizens who were uprooted from that particular area. Now we know times have changed, cost of living has increased, but one of the things I want you guys to really take seriously is that we need new homes in Glenwood. Not apartments, not townhomes. I meet regularly on a call with many of my friends that I went to school with. Shout out Bay High class of 1994. Don't try to guess my age. But many of them would like to return home. Many of them left off to college. Many of them have decided to reside in cities where they could be successful in their careers. But as they move toward the retirement age, they would like the opportunity to move back home. And as you know, with the variances and the different issues with the setup of building homes in Glenwood, a lot of them haven't had the opportunity to move back. So as you look at this project of 15th and MLK, you only really got one shot to get this right. And not just getting it right for the community, but also getting it right for the city itself. Rather it's a P2 or a P3, we want to make sure that it's the best interest of all involved. And that whomever you move forward with, that they've taken into consideration the historical preference as well as the nature of what that community has looked for when you look at the Dover Coal model, when you look at just community concerns, that is the forefront over any other piece of this project. Glenwood has been last on several lists when it comes to infrastructure, when it comes to rebuilding, and that could be a really good reason why. But as you move forward with 15th Street and MLK, please understand as a community, we want this to be something that allows the community to protect its historical nature as well as build upon as every other ward. In most wards, it's really accepted that there's mom and pops, small businesses, and we want that same thing in Glenwood as well. So today, again, I hope you've each had the opportunity to read the letter that I sent and look forward to seeing the 15th Street and MLK project move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bryant.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, Ms. Williams.
Everybody else is hoarse?
Miss
Anyway,
Brenda. Hey.
hey, thank you. Brenda Lewis Williams, 1007 North Center Avenue, PC 32401. I'm going to voice some concerns of mine about the 3 years of advocacy that it took to bring into realization of the community garden at Henry Davis Park. Mounting concerns are in place. about the conflicting CRA and news reporting. They seem to be diametrically opposed. Of the MLK and 15th Street project and the impending possible negative impact of the success of the community garden. Consensus on numerous community meetings, including Dover Coal, was to bring forth the best use to the forefront of maintaining the integrity of said dialogues. Otherwise, the CRA and the city is operating with subterfuge, and this attitude is not acceptable. It is rather obvious that the input from the invested citizens and Dover Coal has fallen on deaf ears of our elected officials, which you all are, even though you're part of the CRA, you're still an elected official. While other wards, excluding Ward 3, are deriving the benefits from CRA, Ward 2 is being neglected for self-serving projects that do not meet the concerns that have been voiced by the citizens in Dover Coal. While Ward 1 and Ward 4 are deriving these benefits, Ward 2 suffers from intentional neglect and erosion of its rich history. The proposals presented by the representative of Sancova did not by any means take into consideration the demographics of Ward 2, which include the socioeconomics of the community as a whole. The Sancova proposal will further fracture an already fractured infrastructure. Trader Joe's and Sprout is not within the demographics of the people who live in Ward 2. There's a few well-to-do, but not that many. And I'd like to ask for about 2 more minutes so I may finish what I have written down.
Is there a motion to grant an additional 2 minutes to Ms. Lewis Williams?
I'll make a motion to do that, to give her 2 more minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
All right. Please call the roll, Ms. Sagehorn.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Chairman Rowan?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Board Member Street?
Yes.
Thank you.
Please reset the
Motion
clock to 2
passes.
minutes. Thank you, Ms. Sagehorn.
I may not need all that time, but thank you. As citizens and the city move forward with the relevancy of development as it addresses the needs of Ward 2, I recognize that all requests from prior conversations may not be met, but your job as elected officials, which you are, and members of the CRA board, because I find that in conflict, quite honestly, is to serve the citizens. I've heard Commissioner Granger say it. We are their employees. I've said it, several others. And I think Josh Street has said the same thing, but you're not listening. What affects and effects one ward ultimately affects and effects all the wards. I leave you, the commissioners, and the board members of the CRA who have been tasked with maintaining integrity of the city and individual wards' welfare. And as Spike Lee said it, and I've said this before, as Spike Lee said it, do the right thing.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis Williams. Any other comments for public comment? Seeing none, the public comment section of the agenda is hereby closed. All right, we had 3 speakers. First up was Patty Sunday, who expressed her appreciation to Board Member Halligus and Chairman Rohannes. This is their last CRA meeting. And then asked about additional members on the board staff. Staff can answer that. So we prepared a memo and we kind of provided 3 options. It was expanding expanding the members, looking at CRA socials, and then Citizen Advisory Committee. And so ultimately we went with the socials. So there was not a, and we're happy to circulate that memo again if you so desire. Yeah, they were all 3 addressed in one memo. Yes, ma'am. And then she had a bonding question, but that'll be addressed in detail during the project updates. Board members, any comments in regards to Ms. Sunday's comments? Brandy,
She
anything to add,
asked
ma'am?
if the new commissioners are automatically
Oh,
appointed to
yes.
the CRA board.
I believe that by virtue of being sworn as either one of the 4 city commissioners or the mayor, you are immediately, upon taking that oath, a member of the CRA board, correct, Mr. Zimmerman?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Second up was Ms. Bryant. She referenced a letter of concerns, but then changed the word to be observations about the development at MLK and 15th Street, and encouraged the board to protect the historical nature of the community. And I'm pretty sure everyone did receive that letter. I know I did. And any comments from the board in regards to Ms. Bryant's comments? All right, seeing none, moving on to Ms. Lewis Williams. Spoke about Henry Davis Park and a community garden. I'm going to be honest, I need to educate myself on that particular garden. And then she gave a speech with comments encouraging and exhorting the board as they move forward in their roles over both the city and the CRAs as we continue to develop the city and recover from Hurricane Michael. And if any board member would like to make any comments in regards to Ms. Lewis Williams' comments. All right, seeing none, we are now moving into item number 7, which is project updates from the CRA. Oh,
Jonathan, before we move on, we do have Commissioner Ratville here. I know he wasn't expected to be called out on this, but I do want to say thank you on behalf of the CRA board for you guys' approval of the expanded CRA district in St. Andrews, which stretches from Ward 4 all the way to Ward 2. So thank you guys so much.
Yep. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, commissioners, I should say. All right, now moving into project updates. So board members, what we're going to do is I'm going to read through the brief update that we have one at a time, and then rather than plowing through the entire list and circling back, we'll answer any of your questions. Staff is available. And I just realized, I apologize. Board member Halligus, did you have any comments in regards to any of the public comments? Yes, ma'am. My apologies. Yeah, go ahead and just keep them up like that. Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Okay, so I'm just going to read them one at a time. And again, we have staff that is here. We have staff in the room as well as online that can answer these questions. The program managers, along with myself, Ms. Waldron, and Mr. Zimmerman. So, all right. Project update number 1 is the Downtown Breezeway. The budget is $550,000. We've expended so far $80,101.76. The request for proposal recommendation, you remember we went out and we got a proposal to do either some type of selling with certain requirements from the city on what that might look like, or potentially some type of long-term lease. Staff does have a recommendation on that, and that will appear before the City Commission on the May 13th meeting, which is next Tuesday. Any questions from the board on the Downtown Breezeway project?
Well, what are our options right now? We bought that piece. We traded some land from Kingston, and we were supposed to make a breezeway from Harrison to Grace, right?
That is correct, and we did. There is a breezeway right now you can
But
cut
there's no
through.
provision for handicap access on the Grace side. And
That is
apparently,
correct.
we have no plans to do that.
I wouldn't say we have no plans. I mean, we have no final plans for the whole project yet. That was something we wanted to consider. I know that we looked at doing kind of a temporary lift at first. I was a part of those conversations. I believe it was back when I was Public Works Director. But the challenge was, I think it was like either $60,000 to $80,000 or something for a lift. There were concerns about spending that much money on it, not knowing exactly what the construction or the remodeling might be to that building. So the thought was to wait until we actually determined and had the board approve a more long-term plan and have like construction plans laid out, and then address ADA access on the back side of it. Anything to add, Ms. Waldron?
No, that is correct, but the reason why this is coming back to the City Commission owns the property there at 447 Harrison, but the CRA spent the $80,000 to turn it into the breezeway as it is today, and all the work and improvements, the mural, all of that was paid for and funded by the CRA as a project. And then the CRA also paid to have a project designed to build it out completely build it out. And so it was a three-phase project. We have now paid for that design, and that's what this $80,000 we've spent so far is, that's part of that. And then we got a letter from the DIB asking us to consider, searching for a partner to enter into a P3 or even to sell this and put it back on the tax rolls. So we did the RFP process, and now we're going to be coming back to the City Commission next Tuesday with a staff recommendation.
Okay, my concern, I think it's a great idea, the breezeway, but why did we bother buying it if we didn't have any plans to do handicap access? It would seem that was something that we should have looked at, before we went ahead and bought the thing.
I can't speak to the decisions and discussion. I think maybe
We're not-
only Board Member Halligus and Mr. Zimmerman were probably a part of that. I don't know if they have any comments. Commissioner Street, were you on the board? Yeah, I was. Okay. Go ahead, Board Member Halligus.
I think there is still, I do think I recall seeing some sort of drawing that did have a zigzag. I think you guys showed us something at some point in time that can show you can have handicap access up to there, but the cost was pretty substantial.
And it was pretty long. You're correct, Board Member Street, because I know we had our facility maintenance team, the carpentry foreman team looked at it, and there's a certain pitch you have to have, and so it was almost like 3 different back and forths, and so that's, in order to get to that height. So I think the long-term desire would be, if we did do handicapped access, that it would be through some type of lift.
I do remember the lift process, which I could be wrong, but I think I remember the lift cost being somewhere around, $80,000. Yeah, that's what I thought.
And not knowing what the long-term would look like, we didn't want to spend that on a temporary basis.
That street's open now though, right?
It is.
Correct.
It is. But if we want to add handicap access there, that could be something that comes up when we do whatever agreement and whatever recommendations that we talk about at the commission meeting. So it is possible to do handicap access.
Yeah, I'm just concerned, why did we buy it if we didn't have we didn't have the handicap access under control? We didn't have an idea what it was going to cost, whether we could even do it or not, because we traded good land for this thing here, which I think the idea of going through to Grace is a great idea, but there's a lot of handicapped people in this town, and so I think we should have been looking out for them. So, it's obviously, in my opinion, we sort of put the cart before the horse, but and I'm all about learning. If we make mistakes, we make a mistake and move on.
A potential thing that we could do is ask for an elevator to be put in, because this is a multi-story building. So any partnership that we're looking to do there, we could say, hey, you could just put an elevator in here with keyed access to higher levels. So anybody can use it publicly between 2 levels, and then outside of that, there's this problem has been solved elsewhere, is my point.
Board Member Halligus, I see your hand is raised, ma'am. And I know additionally, thank you, ma'am. I know additionally, we also are adding some handicap parking spots specifically along Harrison and also along 4th as well. So folks will be able to have easy park access along the front of those stores. And to Commissioner Granger's point, it's now open. So, all right, any more questions on the downtown breezeway? All right, project B is the McKenzie Park restrooms. The budget was $200,000. Ended up expending $229,328. Contribution was $100,000 from the Downtown Improvement Board. The restroom construction is complete. The project was finalized on April 29th following the painting of the doors and trim in black. So up and running, and staff would entertain any questions on the McKenzie Park restroom project. All right. Seeing none, project number C was the McKenzie Park improvements. Budget was $65,000. We've expended $30,069 so far. Improvements include new benches, pergola swings, and trash receptacles. They've all been installed, and outdated bollards and posts have been removed throughout the park. We're currently obtaining quotes for additional seating, cornhole sets, and outdoor musical instruments. However, these upgrades are on hold pending decisions related to the future cost of the Downtown Breezeway project. Any questions from the board members on the McKenzie Park improvements?
Where did the lights come in at McKenzie Park? Because they've got these lights that change colors at night. Is that part of this, or is that something else?
The DIB, the
Yeah.
Downtown Improvement Board.
Okay.
Yeah, the DIB paid for those, and so that would be additional to, or separate to, or additionally to this project.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead, Ms. Halligus.
I think it's,
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Circle, anything to add? I see this as your project. I'll put her on the spot. All right. Moving on to downtown street signs and directory boards. Oh, go ahead, ma'am. I didn't know if you had anything to add on the McKenzie Park improvements. Thank you so much. All right, the downtown street signs and directory boards, the budget was $125,000, expended $111,645. We had contributions of $15,000 from Destination Panama City and $10,000 from the Downtown Improvement Board. Phase 1 of the project is now complete. Phase 2, which includes additional signage funded by the DIB, will be installed in-house by city staff as their capacity and workload permits. As part of this phase, the excess height of the existing signs will also be cut down to improve visual consistency. We have obtained 3 quotes for digital directory boards and plan to seek board approval to incorporate this component into the project in fiscal year 2026, contingent upon budget capability or compatibility. Are there any questions from the board on the downtown street signs and directory board project?
I have a question about excess height of existing signs. Are those signs that were recently put up, or these old signs that have been there a long time?
These are the new poles, and we noticed that the ones that don't have the street signs, and typically you put the actual street names on 2 corners, catty corner from each other. Mm-hmm. And so the other 2 that just have the stop signs, we're going to cut the top of those off because there's just a kind of like almost like an obnoxious amount of pipe above it, and it just looks a little funky. So we're just going to cut it off, and then we'll drop that nice, what do you call it, is it like a corbel, or I don't know. I'm kind of proud I used that word. So Lori's giving me the nod of that's the right word. So on top of it, just to make it look more consistency. And then that way too, the attention would be more drawn to the stop sign and not to, with the pole. So that's all that. And that'll be an in-house modification. So.
Yeah, I was just wondering, if we just put them in, why didn't we put them in and cut them at the same time?
Well, I mean, because they were all installed as ordered, and then as we kind of looked at it, I guess you didn't know exactly and maybe which one was going to have the street signs on or not. So it was to have the flexibility on the front end, and then after we got them installed and we looked at it, we noticed, the ones that aren't going to have the street signs, which is 2 of the 4, it would look best to go ahead and just remove the top excess part. That's all. So, yeah. All right, any other questions on the downtown street signs and directory boards project? All right, moving on. Item E is the downtown sidewalk dance steps and public art. Budget was $20,000. We've expended $5,280 thus far. The Foxtrot and Cha-Cha dance steps have been received. However, installation is pending as we're coordinating with vendors to incorporate this work into the broader scope plan for the sidewalks in front of the Martin Theater and also on Park Avenue. Any questions from the board members on the downtown sidewalk dance steps and public art project? All right. pretty soon, we'll be able to do the foxtrot and the cha-cha. All right, item F is the Glenwood Town Center development at 15th Street and MLK. Budget is $400,000. We've expended $376,489.59. We're also currently in negotiations with the Sankofa Group for development of a grocery store, apartments, and townhomes, projected to have a complete proposal at the June 3rd, 2025 CRA board meeting. Any questions or comments from the board members on the Glenwood Town Center development project?
So we have spent $376,500, $376.50. What have we spent?
Correct.
What?
We purchased those parcels from the
okay.
housing.
So that was buying the land.
We bought those back
Gotcha.
where we had
That
split
looked like
the
a lot of money.
cost.
Yeah.
So now they're all CRA parcels.
I see.
It was
Okay.
split.
So that doesn't have anything to do with this Sankofa group. We're not paying them to come in and do something.
No, we have not paid them anything.
Would we anticipate paying them, or they kind of come in and give their proposal, but it's on them, isn't it?
Right.
You know what I mean, Jonathan?
Correct. No, yeah, now there might be, transfer or some type of lease agreement with the property as part of a broader agreement, but as far as cash flow to that group, I haven't reviewed the draft proposal, but I don't believe that's part of the plan, nor would it be.
Okay.
What he's looking for is the land, not necessarily finances.
So he wants to buy the land from us? Or
That's one of the potential options.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're looking at stuff.
We're looking at stuff, we're looking at options, and he's, we're, like I said, at the next board meeting, we'll be bringing back his proposal for the board to consider. So,
Okay, thanks.
yes, sir. All right, any other
Mr.
questions?
Chair,
I'm sorry, yeah, go ahead, Board Member
I
Lucas.
do want to speak to the questions that have been raised about the Channel 13 news report and whether I intentionally deceived the community. I did not, and I have not lied about this project to the community. What was said at the CRA meeting is what was said when I gave my midterm report. Ms. Brenda Lewis-Williams, you were there, you were recording what I said. Channel 13 did get it wrong. I did not tell them that it was a done deal. It is not. It is far from it. As we had said at the CRA meeting, there will be opportunities to meet with the community during this negotiation process. What has been put forth that was shared at the last CRA meeting by the Sankofa Group is just that, an initial presentation. There's a lot. This is a complex deal. Ms. Bryant, I would ask if you have any mom and pops that are interested, please share them with us. We cannot create the mom and pop. And as we as I understand the process going forward, there are steps involved that any developer would have that involve getting the cash necessary to attract and the project necessary to attract a grocer. The examples given were just those examples. Nothing has been set in stone. We are in the initial phases and are waiting for a proposal with more detail that would take into consideration what the community said at the CRA meetings and the concerns. Both, Ms. Bryant and Ms. Lewis-Williams were made aware of a previous proposal that included a gas station, which I knew that the community did not want and push back on. So I just want to say on the record and for the record, as the Ward 2 Commissioner, I do take seriously representing the interests of the ward that I am elected to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Lucas.
Thanks.
Go ahead, yes, sir,
On
Mr.
that
Chairman.
same token, didn't they say it was going to be several years before they could put this thing together?
So in the timeline that was given to us in our packet and that he shared, it did have several months over a number of years projected at that point. So it's
not-
multiple phases.
Okay, I mean, it could be several years before they.
Yes.
Sometimes when we hear things different than everybody else heard things, but that's kind of, I remember years.
Yeah.
And
So
it's a good project, so it could take a while.
So there's currently the amount of land that the city owns.
There are adjacent parcels that could be purchased to make it a larger footprint to attract a larger grocer. But all of these are yet to be worked out with this board and with the community.
Thank you.
Yep. Ms. Halligus? A timeline has not been established yet. I know we've looked at some potential dates. I know we wanted to kind of get the proposal, the draft proposal back from the potential partner as well, and kind of look through that and work through some of that. But no, it has not been scheduled yet at this time, ma'am. Yes, I think it came in over the weekend. If
We
I
received a draft.
a draft of it. I was on travel last week, so we'll plan to have a meeting this week with Mr. Zimmerman and start looking through it. And there'll probably be some changes I think that staff would want to potentially make to it. And then, of course, we are looking to bring that to get feedback and discussion from the board again at the June 3rd meeting. And it is not my expectation that the board would approve that proposal at that time. I would expect there to be a pretty involved time of discussion and some additional items and direction from the board that we would then go back and then at that time get some additional feedback from the community. But I think until the board really kind of signs off in the direction that we're going, I wouldn't want to go and potentially have folks from the community work on something that the board, doesn't necessarily want us to go in that direction. So that was kind of our plan. And again, it will be at the June 3rd board meeting, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Halligus. Any other comments from the board on item number F, the Glenwood Town Center Development Project?
Just want to note that Ms. Sunday brought up the letter from Rob Rosner. We have received that.
All right, moving on to item number G, the Incremental Development Alliance Training Program. The budget was $38,500. We've expended $0 at this time. We're coordinating a date and location for the introduction to the Incremental Development Lecture, and that is planned to take place sometime towards the middle to end of August of this year. Are there any questions from the board regarding the Incremental Development Alliance Training Program? All right, hearing none, moving on to Henry Davis Park improvements, item H. The budget is $125,000. We've expended $0. This project will be completed in-house with a coordination meeting involving all departments scheduled for May 9th. That is later this week. Planned improvements include a small pavilion with an attached shed, shade sails over the community garden, a larger pavilion with tables and grills, a bank shot basketball court, a Kiwanis-sponsored playground, which is much larger than what's there, an interactive learning path, and a mural, I'm just going to say, I think that's supposed to be, and a mural on the restroom building. A new park sign will also be included if the budget allows. Are there any questions from the board on the Henry Davis Park Improvements project?
You read that the meeting of the departments was going to be May 9th. My book here says May 6th, which is today. Is that, is my book wrong?
That might have been the typo that was flagged for me by Ms. Zirkle. I believe that was it. Yes, her son, their baseball team just keeps winning. And so I think that's why it was probably adjusted. Is that correct, Ms. Zirkle? Yep, so it will be May 9th, so.
Okay.
Yep.
No, I just see in our book.
Nope,
it
you're
says
correct.
May 6th.
I got an update earlier today, so that was the one tweak. All right, item number I is the Beck Avenue FDOT beautification. Budget $520,000, $520,300. We've expended $0. This grant funding totals $500,000 of the budget. The permit is currently awaiting FDOT approval. Piney Grove intends to begin work by October of this year at the latest, and the project remains to be on track for completion by December of 2025. Are there any questions from the board in regarding the Beck Avenue FDOT beautification project?
I do. I guess I'm just wondering like how it got hung up for longer. Has there been like some kind of change, the FDOT or something like that?
Ms. Zirkle or Ms. Waldron, can you speak to that?
I'll wait for Michelle, but I do think it was with having to coordinate with FDOT on what they're doing
On the roadway improvements?
On the roadway
98.
improvement? Michelle, like with that, I mean, obviously this is going to start being planting during cold season. So, I mean, you typically don't do landscaping stuff this close to winter. Is there any chance that we could try to get them to move that up a month or two so we're not in December? Michelle, if you go ahead and ask for them to consider allowing us to execute the southern half that's not, what I do know, I've been around long enough to know that FDOT projects tend to not always happen exactly on schedule. And so my fear is like, it's not September, it's like November, and now we're trying to execute with a month left on the contract, or we're trying to execute when it's in winter months. So I think anything we could get done before then, and it really is just that, I mean, that northern half that's only affected. Everything else should be good to go, so. Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions from the board on the Beck Avenue FDOT beautification project? All right, hearing none, item J is the Millville FDOT beautification project. Budget was $260,000. We've expended $0. $250,000 of the project is a grant fund from FDOT. FDOT recently approved the permit. Piney Grove, the lowest responsive bidder, plans to begin the work in early May and will be completed by the very end of June. Any questions from the board on the Millville FDOT beautification project? Hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Halligus. All right, item K is the Daffin Park renovations project. Budget was $129,000. We've expended $115,000. The CRA contribution supported exterior improvements to the clubhouse, as well as upgrades to the baseball field, basketball court, and park infrastructure. Pursuant to CRA Social's request received, we are currently developing a separate project plan and budget for fiscal year 2026. This is in addition to the current budget listed and will include additional lighting, new bleachers, and plumbing and electrical upgrades within the clubhouse itself. Are there any questions from the board in regard to the Daffin Park renovations project?
I don't have a question, I just have kudos to the staff and all who are involved in this. We were able to do this in-house, and Daffin Park looks great. It is used extensively in the community, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lucas. All right, next up is item number L, the Millville Gateway Sign Renovation Project. Budget was $30,000. We've expended $3,079 so far. That is deposit paid to Fast Signs LLC for updates to the Millville Gateway sign. The new look will coordinate in color with the planned signs in Millville Waterfront Park. Are there any questions from the board regarding the Millville Gateway sign renovation project?
Will there be extra super glue on the M?
They will be inlaid instead of being stuck on.
Okay, yeah, because that was a problem in the past.
Yes, those M's just seem to jump off that sign and disappear on a regular basis. So, any other questions from the board? All right, item number M is the Millville Waterfront Park. The budget was $1,500,000. We've expended $648,556.60. Grant funding is from a USDA tree grant of $76,500. And CPAR, the Central Panhandle Association for Realtors, purchased the pergolas totaling $7,500. The Millville Waterfront Park project is being completed in-house and continues to move forward with a total budget of $1.5 million and current expenditures of $648,556. The amphitheater is currently under construction and is expected to be completed by the end of May. A permit application for the restrooms was submitted and construction is planned to begin after the amphitheater project is complete. The new park sign is also expected to be installed by Advanced Signs sometime by the end of April or possibly early part of May. I don't know, Michelle, if it has been installed as of yet. An interactive learning path sponsored by the United Way is also planned to be installed. Plans for Bike Safety Village and parking lots are currently being developed by city engineer Tina Bradley with finalized cost estimates to follow. Go ahead, Ms. Halligus. No one thought that, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Zirkle, did you have anything to add? Has the sign been installed yet by Advanced Signs? I know it says the end of April here. Another week or two. All right. Thank you. Anything to add, Ms. Zirkle, on this one? I know this is a pretty big project. All right. All right. Any other questions from the board members in regard to the Millville Waterfront Park project? All right, moving on. Item N is the Millville Bond Project planned for fiscal year 2026. Budget is $3,500,000. We've expended $26,425 so far. Work is underway to establish the full scope and budget for the Millville Bond Project that incorporates requests from the CRA Socials with the goal of finalizing a cost estimate and scope of work by the June or July board meeting later this summer. The proposed scope currently includes an 8-foot wide pedestrian path along 3rd Street from Everett Avenue to Maple Avenue and along Maple Avenue from 3rd Street to Snug Harbor. Southern Earth is conducting a geotechnical study and Dewberry Engineering Firm has completed the site survey. Results from both are expected by May 8th. Infrastructure improvements along 3rd Street as well, currently pending a cost estimate from the Public Works Department. And also the Bike Safety Village and associated parking lot designs are being finalized by City Engineer Tina Bradley. A project charter and cost task tracking spreadsheet have been created, and a pro forma from Jan Smith, City Clerk Treasurer, has been received, outlining financing options for a $3.5 million bond over both 10 and 20-year terms. Are there any questions from the board in regards to the Millville bond project, or does staff have anything to add? Ms. Waldron or Ms. Zirkle? Go ahead, Ms. Halligus. Or is her hand still up? It's all, nothing, we're good with raising hands. It's all good. Board, any questions? I know there was some question. I don't know if that answered your question. I don't remember if it was Ms. Sunday or Ms. Bryant that had a question about the bond. Did we answer your question?
I want it to be clear, is it 3?
Okay. Please go ahead and come up. Just restate your question briefly. We want to make sure we answer it.
Thank you. And this was part of the stuff we discussed in the charrettes, which were fabulous. Are you saying that you already have $3 million in the budget, and this is another 3.5, the 6.5?
No, we would be looking to do a bond for 3.5 million.
And then could you explain, is it going to be a referendum? Does it go to a vote?
I believe the board itself would have that authority, correct, Mr. Zimmerman?
Yes, I mean, it's not required to go to a referendum. It's a pledge of the TIF revenues, the increment.
Okay,
financing.
you're calling it a bond because of what it's going to be backed with and how you're financing it,
Right.
not a bond for taxpayers. I'm on Texas law.
It's not a general
Right, you're correct.
obligation.
Okay, that's where I was confused. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for letting us clarify that. All right, any other questions from any of the board members on the Millville bond project for fiscal year 2026? All right, hearing none, moving on to item O. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Halligus. That would be great. Please make sure Ms. Waldron and Ms. Zirkle get that email. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, moving on to item O, World Changers. Budget is $30,000 for Downtown North and $30,000 for Millville. World Changer volunteers will be working in these districts from July 7th through July 11th of 2025 to help repair and improve residential homes free of charge. Applications are available on the CRA website. Neighborhood canvassing to hand out applications will be on May 9th. Postcards providing this information will be sent to all homeowners located within the designated boundaries of the planned project. The application deadline is going to be June 1st of 2025. Are there any questions from the board members on the World Changers project plan?
It says in these districts, what districts are we talking about?
So 30,000 is Downtown North District, and then 30,000 for the Millville District.
I see.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
It's right in front of me.
All right. And Ms. Halligus, see your hand is up?
Staff has had conversations with Ms. Bryant, and we have shared the application with her, and go ahead, Lena.
I just spoke with her. I spoke with her after the meeting last month, and she suggested I come to one of her senior meetings that they have at Glenwood Community Center. So I just made plans with her that I'll be there Thursday to talk with that group, and we'll have applications on hand for that as well.
All right, thank you, Ms. Webb. Any other comments or questions from the board in regards to the World Changers project? All right, hearing none, moving on to item P, which is the Beautification Stewardship Agreement. With a budget of $250,000 and $0 expended thus far, the CRA is working with the Panama City Parks, Culture, and Recreation Department for services and upkeep of CRA improvements in all 4 of our CRA districts. We are projecting to have an agreement for review and approval at the June 3rd, 2025 CRA board meeting. Are there any questions from the board in regards to the beautification stewardship agreement or any additional comments from staff? All right, hearing none. Item Q is the TIF rebate incentive program. Since the program began in December of 2024, we have awarded grants to 3 recipients. Staff is also currently engaged with multiple potential applicants who have expressed their intention to apply. Are there any questions from the board in regards to the TIF rebate incentive program project or anything additionally to add from my staff? Hearing none, item R is the CRA plan updates. The expansion of the St. Andrews District is nearing completion. GAI consultants are working to provide a first draft for all 4 updated district plans. Are there any questions from the board or additional items to add from staff for the CRA plan updates? All right, hearing none, that concludes the project updates portion of this agenda.
I would like to return to the Millville Bond project, if I may.
Yes, ma'am. Going back to item number N. Ms. Lucas?
As the scope and budget for this bond project is in the development process, one of the items mentioned at the CRA social was the need to dredge the Watson Bayou. Don't know if it's this mechanism that could be a possibility for that. I do know it's a large undertaking, and would like to ask about that you pursue the possibility of including that project in this bond project.
We can certainly look into that. Mr. Zimmerman, were you
Yeah,
say
I was
something?
just trying to visualize on a map. Is this the area, what exactly would this area be?
So-
The Masalina Bayou?
When you cross Business 98 into Millville, that body of water to the left,
Okay.
back up in
Okay.
there.
Snug Harbor was built at the very top of Watson Bayou,
Right.
just to kind of give you your bearings.
So this is back the other way, which
Okay.
also affects the tributaries going into Glenwood and on up.
So the area I think that Janice is speaking of is actually north of 98.
North, yeah, it's north.
North.
That
So
little
it's the
north part, okay.
It's the part of 98 that's north of that.
Maybe to allow them to get under the bridge, is that?
No, I mean, there's quite a bit. There's a lot that's gone non-navigatable, especially the further you get up.
Yes.
It gets really, really shallow. I don't think it's been dredged in probably decades at this point. But we did talk about Mexico Beach bought a dredge. In the past, we'd used the county's dredge, but the county doesn't have a dredge anymore. So Mexico Beach has got a smaller one. The county's working on a large one for beach renourishment, which wouldn't apply here. But there was some talk with Mexico Beach about possibly in their down season utilizing theirs as well. So
Well, something needs to happen in that regard.
And I think that might actually be part of Downtown North District, but we can look at that as a potential project for Downtown North CRA.
Well, it's going to have to go through the Army Corps of Engineers, so
Be patient.
be patient.
I know the city is working on a broader strategy. We're trying to raise the bar to, some of Board Member Street's comments. We really want to try to increase our capability on that and we kind of raise the bar on more consistent dredging because it is a challenge in several parts of the city, really all around.
if it's something, one of the things that Mark and I had talked pretty extensively about was doing a unified dredge program. And so, which would be, because it's not just Watson Bayou that's affected. We've got Johnson Bayou, we've got Lake Huntington, we've got the boat ramp that we just did over in Carl Gray. I mean, dredging seems to be a pretty regular occurrence of things that we have. There could be an opportunity, maybe we need to look at a smaller dredge ourselves or something that we can just utilize in-house, I don't know.
Almost wonder if we could enter into some type of cooperative agreement, maybe with the county and maybe Lynn Haven and even Panama City Beach, and each, put in a portion of the expense and then each dedicate maybe a few staffers that are trained on it. It's just a thought.
And that's kind of how the old county programs worked from the standpoint of they had 2 people on personnel and everybody kind of shared, but then as the dredge aged, most of what they're doing is on beach renourishment. And so they've got, huge, massive projects, and a small dredge isn't going to do that. But in these things that we're talking about, something along the size of what Mexico Beach has would be, beneficial. But I think they have to dredge weekly or something. It's something ridiculous that they have to do pretty often.
All right, well, we'll reach out to county staff and have that conversation, and maybe also some of the other municipalities in Bay County. All right, any other comments or questions for the good of the order regarding anything that we've discussed here today? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion we adjourn.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Sagehorn, please call the roll.
Board Member Lucas?
Yes.
Board Member Granger?
Yes.
Board Member Street?
Yes.
Chairman Rowan?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Meeting is adjourned.